we're sitting down at dinner. My wife and I had talked about this already, and we're like, hey, you want to move? Because we're used to moving every 2 years. So we've been in Tampa again for 2 years, and we're like, it's time to go somewhere.
Yeah.
So I apply for a job in Vincenza. I get the job in Vincenza. My wife applies for a job in England. She gets the job in England.
Really?
So we sit the kids down at dinner, and we say, hey, you guys want to move? And they're like, yeah, sure, why not? You go, do you want to go to Italy or do you want to go to England? We want to go to England. But okay. And that was about all we said about it, right? So about 3 weeks later or what, I don't know, a month later or whatever, we go, okay, guys, we need to be packed. They're going to come in to pack our stuff. And they're like, what? They thought we were kidding.
Welcome to the Courage Never Quits podcast, where members of the West Point class of 1986 tell their stories. I'm your host, Paul LaFontaine. My guest today is Jonathan Reinbold, column number 43605. We'll hear about John's time on the Army baseball team and about his career as an aviator. As always, the views expressed in this podcast are those of the participants and not of West Point, the Army, or any organization, most particularly the Friends of Kauai's Chickens.
Jon Reinebold, welcome to the program.
Thanks. Happy to be here, man.
It's great to see you.
Catch up with all the classmates.
So I always love these. We catch back up after a long period of time. But you're dialing in right now from Hawaii. Talk about that.
Correct.
What took you to Hawaii?
Correct. Well, they have Navy has lodges on the actual cabins on the beach here.
Okay.
So my wife and I would come vacation once in a while, and my folks died. Both of them passed, and we're like, hey, we got nothing keeping us. Let's do it. We lived once, so we moved. Figuring we'd have a few years here, and it's actually the longest I've ever lived anywhere.
What year was that?
That was 6 years ago.
6 years.
Don't make me do the math on TV. I mean, it's like...
No, that's fine.
I don't want to do that stuff.
No math tests here. So you've been there for 6 years, and how do you find it? Because people have Hawaii is one of those places with a lot of mythology around it. How do you find actually living in a place that's essentially a tourist destination?
Where I'm at, I'm on Kauai, right? So we only have like 68,000 people living on the whole island. I really enjoy it. There's a sense of community here. I know the people on my street. You know, they've lived here all their lives. I respect the culture. You know, I don't try to change things or anything like that, and I've been able to blend pretty well. The best thing I ever did was help coach the kids' baseball team.
Yeah.
Because that, shows you're giving, you're not taking. So, and which is really respected here.
So my only experience with Kauai is I went to a wedding there for a dear friend and all the chickens.
Yes, there are a lot of those.
Well, there was a storm there and a bunch of them got loose and the place is just full of chickens everywhere, right?
When the hurricane hit, apparently, this is the lore. Yeah. Aniki hit and the chickens went to all corners of the island and they're everywhere.
And they're protected, I believe, right? You can't actually do anything to them, so they're treated well.
Not really, but what are you going to do?
You can't catch them.
Well, it's funny because the local kids, the little kids,
yeah,
you'll see them riding their bike. They'll be this is Kauai in a nutshell for me, culturally. You got two kids on a bike, none of them wearing helmets.
Right.
They're all wearing either slippers or flip-flops or no shoes at all, and one of them will be carrying a chicken on the handlebars.
Right.
It is a laid-back place, and it hasn't been.
It is a laid-back place. Good for you, though.
Yeah.
So before we go back in time, let's talk a little about you. You coached for many years after you settled there. Was that right? Talk a little. I did look at your LinkedIn. Talk a little bit about the coaching.
Well, my dad was a baseball coach, so it's kind of in the family. My brother's a football coach. He actually coaches at the University of Hawaii right now.
Okay.
Another brother is a baseball coach, so it's kind of in the family type thing.
Yeah.
And after I retired, I actually was an EMS pilot for a while, and then I lost my medical because of vertigo, and decided I wanted to do something else, so I started coaching. Coached it. Actually, was a volunteer at West Point for about 6 months.
I saw that.
Yeah. A baseball coach, volunteer baseball coach too.
But you were at the Performance Enhancement Center. I think you listed that anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. Did that for 6 months. Coached at the Merchant Marine Academy for a couple of years. Had a head coaching gig in North Dakota for about a year. I didn't enjoy that one at all.
Right.
And then I just coached locally with the high school kids.
Was that because of the head coaching or the North Dakota?
I hated recruiting. Couldn't stand recruiting. It's a nasty business. It really is.
That's a big part of it, right? Is the next bringing on the next.
It's a huge part of it. Because you can only coach what you get.
Yeah. Yeah. Now let's go all the way back in time now. So your dad's a baseball coach, and that must play prominently in your South Bend, Indiana days, which is where you grew up, right?
Yeah, absolutely. On Saturdays, we could hear the band playing in the stadium at Notre Dame for the football game.
Yeah, that little school next door.
Yeah. Didn't ever want to go there. I actually could have gone there for free because my mom was a director of housing, and I had no desire to go there.
No desire.
Nothing. None. I wanted to get out of South. You ever been to South Bend?
I've not actually spent any time in South Bend, but my son lives in Bloomington downstate, and so I'm well familiar with the territory.
Yeah, so you don't want to live in South Bend. It's a good place to be from.
Right. Or to go to school for 4 years and get out.
Exactly. Too cold for me.
Now, I'm going to ask a dumb question. So the identity of being a Hoosier, because in California, you can be in different parts of the state and actually identified kind of differently. Is a Hoosier a Southern Indiana thing, or do you consider yourself a Hoosier?
No, it's anybody from Indiana.
Anybody from Indiana. Okay. Yeah. There's your cultural lesson for the day, kids.
There we go.
Okay.
Yeah.
And baseball. Talk about your dad was a baseball coach, and how did that work out?
He was actually my high school baseball coach, and then he went on to coach professionally for 4 or 5 different organizations.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. Really unusual because he never played. So the chance to do that is like 1 in a million, but he was really good at what he did, and taught me how to
talent, right?
Yeah, it taught me how to play the game. Honestly, it's the only way I got into West Point. I was deluded to think I could get in there any other way. So yeah, I played there, played at high school, and then went on to play in college, all 4 years.
The way I got in is they figured out we need someone right in the middle of the bell curve to fill out the parades. So
I very rarely paraded.
5th rank back on the 4th on the left. We need that role filled. Get this guy in.
Yeah, I was not. I remember sitting. What was it? First day we sat in Eisenhower Hall.
Yeah.
Pike Hall, and they said, "Hey, this is how many valedictorians there are. This is how many salutatorians." I don't remember who gave you that speech. He goes, "This is how many National Honor Society. This is how many whatevers." And I keep on going, nope. Finally, they got to team captain. I'm like, okay, I got that one.
Got one.
Then his next words were, "Look to your left, look to your right. One of you will not be here." And I'm thinking, well, I know who that is.
I know which one of the 3. Now I'm very proud of the fact that alphabetically Landon Lack was on one side, John Landgraf was on the other, and we all 3 made it through. So I'm one of the few that didn't have one of the 3 go.
Yeah, so it was rather kind of intimidating that day.
I bet, yeah, absolutely, for all of us.
In a lot of ways, yeah.
We were probably, because we were in the same beast group, we were probably sitting a couple rows away from each other, looking at each other, saying, which one is it?
Yep. Were you in 5th company?
I was actually in 7th company.
7th company? Okay.
Oh, were you in 5th?
All around, yeah. Yeah, I was in 5th.
Okay, all right. So then we weren't in the same beast company. All right, but we ended up in the Wild West Battalion together anyway. I was in C4.
Yeah.
So we were just talking to Dan Stradler, who was on the football team. Now we get right away the baseball team. So I'm actually intrigued at the differences. So what was it like coming into the baseball program? Talk about, like, from day one, were you affiliated with the team, and how did that work?
Yeah, I was actually a recruited athlete. Again, that's the only way I got in there, because I was a 3.29 in high school with no honors classes and none of that stuff.
Okay.
So I went and visited. It was a paid visit. They paid for me to go visit.
You did. You went on a recruiting trip.
Yeah. So
now, did the baseball team set you straight and say, this is what this place is actually like, or did they kind of shine it up a little bit?
Well, no, they didn't shine it up. There was a concert at I Call that night, so I figured, every Saturday we have we have concerts here. This is great. That kind of stuff. But
right.
No, they didn't. They didn't try to do that.
Okay. So you had as real a view of it as you could see, having been there.
From the outside, yeah. I mean, obviously,
right.
you go to classes and it's like, okay, class, it's a small class. This is high school. It's cool. Yeah.
So back in high school, did you play other sports? Were you a 3-sport threat?
I played basketball in ninth grade.
Okay.
We were a really good high school basketball program, and I could see the writing on the wall. They wanted me to play defense if I played at all. And I was like, I'm going to concentrate on baseball.
And what was your position in high school on the team? Baseball.
I was a second baseman.
Second base. Okay.
Yeah.
And then recruited athlete, you come in, you show up. How did Beast Barracks hit you?
Like a brick. The thing is a lot of people, their parents came up with them.
Yeah.
Right. My dad was, I actually am a class of 81 grad in high school because I hurt my knee, my very last game in baseball. So I had to stay out a year. So I had to do the whole process twice.
Is that right?
Yeah. So instead of my parents coming up, my dad couldn't get away. My mom didn't fly. So they just put me on the airplane, flew into New York City, for the first time. And I don't even remember how I got to Highland Falls, but stayed in the West Point Motel, or one of those motels right off base. And then,
which I don't think has been updated or renovated since that day.
No.
If we could go there, we could still see your name scratched into the shower's wall. Right?
Probably. Yeah. What was it my wife said the other day? That tradition is nothing more than peer pressure from dead people. Which I love. And I mean, does that not fit West Point or what?
That's very West Point. The West Point Motel hasn't changed a bit. Usually we try to not be sharp edged in the podcast because we're a family show, but when it comes to the motel options in the local area,
there aren't many.
All the oxen free.
And it wasn't, I don't think it was the West Point Motel. It was one of those local motel. Yeah.
Fine establishments. But you found your way up there by yourself, which must have been uniquely terrifying to be alone.
It must have been, because it's one of those selective memories, because I don't remember anything about it. I just ended up in LaGuardia, and then somehow I'm now at West Point. So then that day we had a baseball get together. So I met all my future teammates the day before our day.
Oh, is that right? Okay. Well, that was charitable of them. Yeah.
Yeah, it was. I mean, so, at least if you saw somebody, okay, I know who that guy is, because I'm from South Bend, Indiana. I know nobody.
Right. Was there, did the Indiana cadets get together? Was that a thing? Because California cadets, being from California, we kind of knew each other.
Well, I don't know if we did or not. I didn't. I know Rob Rogemans lived like 2 miles from me or 3 miles from me, and I didn't even know he went to school there.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it was until we were actually at school.
Okay.
I don't have any recollection of ever meeting him beforehand.
Yeah, no kidding. Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, go in there and do my our day stuff, and I remember they said
being a standout baseball player, were you recruited for other schools? Where was West Point kind of your go?
No, yeah. I had some other options. Navy was an option.
Okay.
The Citadel was an option. Notre Dame was an option. So I had some other options to do.
Okay.
But,
and what was it about West Point that turned your head?
I always wanted to go to, well, I shouldn't say always, but I wanted to go to an academy. My brother is 7 years older than me. He's an Army aviator.
Okay.
And he went to the Citadel. And so I was kind of piqued with that. And then my father was a corporal in the Army during the Korean War. He had the tough assignment of being an Anahuac. He's told me he play softball and listen to the radio. That's all he did, basically.
Well, we all have a role to play.
Exactly. But he was always, very complimentary towards the military and officers and all that. And I'm like, you know what? I want to do that. And so, I remember in 7th and 8th grade wanting to do that.
That's great. Okay.
So, it was that was the impetus to get there.
Okay. So, and the fact that you got something from Navy, you were kind of aiming in that direction anyway.
Yeah. Right. Navy just, and this is heartfelt. It just doesn't have the allure of school.
Right.
You know,
Right.
and when you're a 17, 18-year-old kid, that means a lot.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Before reality slaps you in the face one July.
Right. Until until it all comes home. So on that first day when you met everybody, did you meet longtime friends well after? Did you meet them right up front, or was that
Mike Spur, Carl Tappert, you know, there's a whole slew of them that, you know, Mark Ledoux, Parker King, Jeff Weston. There were a whole bunch of guys that just really good people, you know, really fun to be around. I was a terrible teammate. Absolutely horrid.
Why is that?
Horrid teammate. I think I'm ADD. So emotional regulation isn't one of my strong suits.
Right.
So I could be a little, as I say, I'm the sine wave, and my wife is the flatliner in our family.
There you go.
So I was all over the place. So I was probably not the
At least
best.
you didn't find a cosine.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You know, yeah.
No,
Trust
but
me,
just
that's
great
not a
guys.
good way to go. All right.
Exactly. So yeah, just hanging around those guys. I knew some of them that first day. A lot of them you don't until later, but friends
Right.
for life. I mean, I had them all. Carl couldn't make it, but I had them all here at the house a couple of years ago.
Yeah, good for you.
So.
Yeah, you do have some great photos on there from the fact the baseball team gets together. But the baseball team, just being by nature of the time of year that you play, when did it really kick off? I mean, did you have a lot of plebe stuff early on that fade into it, or did they get you going right away?
We were on that first year, at least. We were on status, if you will, all year long.
Okay.
So I was in season all year long, so I never sat at tables as a plebe.
Okay. So you were,
you know, all those types of duties and stuff. We had the reduced duties. Matter of fact, I'm not proud of this, but second semester, first he came up to me and said, "What are you doing standing in our formation?" Now he was on battalion staff. He's like, "What are you standing in our formation?" I'm like, "What do you mean?" he didn't know who I was.
which is good for you.
Yeah.
Right. Because my battalion staff, when they saw me, they said, "Oh, not you again."
Yeah. So it was actually made it much easier.
Absolutely. So the football players' concern going into all the training and everything is their weight and their strength, naturally. What was it in baseball that you tried to protect as you went through the military training? Was because you wanted to not ruin your baseball skills. Was there anything that you guys were more careful about?
Well, I can't speak for everybody. I could speak for myself, and it was sleep.
Sure.
I never pulled an all-nighter at school. Refused to do it. As a matter of fact, one time I had a math assignment due, and I hadn't done it, and it was like 10 o'clock, and I'm like, nope. So I took a piece of paper out, got somebody else's homework, copied it completely, and in my acknowledgement statement, I said, "Sir, this is my own work, except as noted. Note, I copied this entirely from so-and-so." I got a C on it, so I'm like, yes.
I'm very disappointed with myself because I never came up with that strategy. But the more of these podcasts I do, the more that was kind of a thing. A lot of people were doing something similar, and they were all getting C's. I just got C's on my own, so I could have saved myself all the trouble.
Yeah. So it was sleep to me was the big thing.
Yeah, sleep. Okay, and tables. Did you guys get double rations trying to keep your weight up, or was you just ate normally?
Yeah, rations and a half. Rations and a half, and is
okay.
I'm only 168 pounds still, so that was always a battle for me. You know, Mike Spur and I would scrap on who could be the lightest guy on the team.
There you go. Well, you know, you're 168 pounds. To the rest of us, it looks like you're shrinking. Because we're not changing. It's got to be you.
Genes, man. Good genes. That's all I can say.
Good on you, though. What, so plebe year, B4, Wild West Battalion, but they didn't really, you were on the baseball team. What was it like in B4? Because C4 was kind of intense.
It was actually, you know, I don't know. It's hard to say because I wasn't around a lot of other people.
Right.
Because baseball was so time consuming. If you weren't in my class or you weren't a baseball player, I probably didn't know you.
Okay.
Being honest. Or my company, I probably wouldn't know you. But it was actually kind of nice because Scotty Donaldson was in that company.
Mm-hmm.
Davey Alexander was in that company. They were both baseball players at the time. Scotty
Okay.
played all 4 years. Dave didn't. But we actually roomed together second semester. 3 baseball players in the same room. It was a Zoom.
Oh, boy.
But, I thought the people, except for one guy, and I won't mention his names, the upperclassmen were pretty fair.
Okay. Fair enough. Well, shoot, we should have sent some of ours over to you.
We had the advantage, too, because, at lunch, after lunch, we would break because we could go early.
Yeah.
And we'd sit in the firsties rooms whose rooms were they? I can't remember which baseball players, but we'd sit and listen to music and stuff.
Well,
while
there
everybody
you
else
go.
is still at chow. So we had those kind of nice little perks, if you will.
A few little amenities, sure.
Yeah.
Sure. So what was a day in the life of a baseball player? So football had this schedule that, that we hear all about. What was it like for you guys in terms of strength training? How did you guys spend your day?
Well, obviously everybody does the same thing up until, well, maybe not with football, but you go to class, get done with class. We would literally run across the apron, go to the gym, change at the gym, and then run across the plane and just start our practice. We'd practice until dinner. After dinner, you just did the normal cadet stuff. So it wasn't all
Did you practice where the field was? Because it's where the library is now.
It's the same field. That's actually I think that is, if memory serves me right, that is the oldest baseball field in America.
Huh. Okay.
And it's been kind of situated at the same place.
So the field itself is in the same place, but everything around it has changed.
Yeah.
In terms of it, that used to be all that was over there back then.
There were the tennis courts over there. That's where the library is now.
Gotcha. Okay. Tennis courts is where the library went. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you guys practiced on that field. So that was kind of your whole world then.
Yeah, it was. So, and then we'd run back across the plane, get on our clothes, go to dinner, and then just be kind of normal cadets after that.
Yeah.
But we didn't do the marching stuff and all. I think I marched 5 times the whole time I was there. Maybe. So I didn't really
picked up the slack for you. We averaged it out together, you and I.
It wasn't the typical cadet experience, if you want to say that.
Right. I was laughing with Stredler because he was in the football team, and I was saying, I was in I-3 and right there on the plane. Every single, if there was an old grad stumbling across the plane, I'd have to march out there with a little detail to go out and surround him. I would march all the time.
Yeah, I was fortunate because I was terrible at it.
I was a terrible baseball player, so we're doing good. Good for you. And now F2 was your upper class.
Yeah, the zoo. Company. Great company. Great.
How'd that go? How was that transition?
Easy. Real easy. Because F2 is not a slack company. It wasn't a slack company, but it was just, if you do your stuff, leave you alone, you're good to go.
That's the company I was in, was kind of that way. It's like,
yeah,
do your stuff.
Yep.
And we won't bother you too much. Got it.
Yep.
Remind me, where was F2 physically? Where were you living, basically?
I don't even know the name of the hall anymore. It was looking out over the central area.
Central area. Okay. So you're on the backside of the central area, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Because first, anyway.
So I could watch the guys marching on the weekends and stuff like that.
Right. Which must have been
great. You.
Yeah. I actually was not a big discipline. How about yourself? Did you get in trouble at all? You seem like
I had one area tour, and it wasn't an area tour because I was a baseball player.
Right. What did you do wrong?
I don't remember. I don't even remember.
Yeah. So then, therefore, it wasn't that big a part of you.
Yeah. So
I actually didn't get in trouble that much because I valued my time too much. So I didn't spend too much time over there under your steely gaze, marching back and forth. Some of the guests on the podcast have spent a significant amount of time. You saw a couple of them out there for quite a bit of time.
Yeah.
So you traveled a lot with the baseball team.
Yeah, we did. A little bit, not like they do now. Now it's outstanding. I don't know how they do it academically now.
Are they on the plane now and all that stuff? I mean,
Yeah, they're gone like every weekend. You know,
That's
it's not a
amazing.
home. They're gone. Because we would our one trip a year would be spring break, but
Right.
now they're taking trips in the middle of the week. You know what I'm saying? Trip, I mean by distance. We're not talking bus around New York City area, but
So what was the travel program back then? You played. Who were the teams that you played?
we were all the Ivies and Navy.
Okay.
Was our league, and then we'd play schools from around the area also.
Right. Right. And where was spring break? Down in Florida? No.
Spring break was actually, as I understand it, Steinbrenner paid for our spring break. So we went to Florida 3 years. The 1 year we didn't go to Florida, we went to California, out to San Diego.
Okay.
Yeah, it was nice. It was nice, especially freshmen. You know, because you guys were stuck. You guys were stuck at school, and we were in Tampa area.
Well, you know, we were enjoying the plebe parent weekend,
Yeah.
which was nice. So,
Was it really?
well, it was a chance to show off to our parents, and so
Yeah.
we had a moment where somebody who loved us saw us.
You know, yeah.
All prior to that, nobody loved us. But then we actually just saw some of the friendly who were very impressed with us in our uniforms because nobody else was.
You know, the thing that I really missed was that first day during our day when we did the parade.
Yeah.
I remember sitting there, I'm marching, scared to death.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking my dad's not here. And it just really kind of, he would have absolutely loved to have seen that. And he couldn't. And it was always kind of not a regret, but it's just one of those things.
Yeah, one of those things you miss. My parents were in California. They didn't have a chance to come back.
Yeah.
For a variety of reasons. You know, I honestly don't think they actually didn't even think of it. They just like back then it was like, oh, you send your kid off. Where nowadays we all take our kids to different colleges and all kinds of stuff.
Yes.
But back then it was just like, no, he's going to West Point. It's like he gets on a plane, he goes away, and he comes back 4 years from now.
We were free. We were free range kids,
you know?
right?
And we go to the graduation, and so the plebe parent week they came back for it. So.
Yeah.
So what was your course of study? I mean, I think you underestimate, or you are being self-effacing about the amount of work the baseball team took up. That's a lot of work to hit those practices.
It is. No, I don't mean to say it's not work, but it's, you know, we weren't getting up at 6 a.m. going and doing weights or whatever.
Yeah.
Back then, weights was really kind of frowned upon for baseball players.
Is that
we
right?
started it like my sophomore year. We started doing weights, but yeah, it was kind of frowned upon a little bit in the baseball community in general.
Yeah. So what was your course of study? What did you choose as a major?
I have a bachelor's of science in nothing. That's what I tell people.
I think that's a very wise course.
You know, it's I could have been a math major, but because during the testing when we were in Beast, I think I fell asleep. I honestly do. I had audited calc at Indiana University South Bend for that year I was out. So I understood calc a little bit. But I scored so poorly they put me in rock math.
Right.
So I was in rock math, and I enjoy math. It's easy for me. So it was actually a way I boosted my GPA a little bit.
Yeah.
But they said, yeah, you remember when we were talking majors, they said, yeah, you can be a math major, but you have to go to STAP. And I'm like, no way. Ain't happening.
No.
I'm not taking it. We get so little time. I'm not doing that. So is that, or HORSA is the other thing I kind of studied. But there was not even a moment's hesitation. Nope.
And so you got a math, science, engineering side of the house degree, if you will.
Yeah.
Okay. So a general engineering degree is what they ended up being.
I don't even know what they call it. Yeah.
But was it math centric, or did you just took a variety of?
No, it's math centric.
Yeah.
Yes, I was one class short of being a math major.
Oh, I missed that. Okay, got it. Yeah. Well, I think that's, I often ask, I'll ask you later, what advice would you give? I would go back in time and tell myself, just don't specialize in anything. Just take courses that are good and keep you nice and rounded. You have plenty of time to specialize later. So there you go. So baseball, like you have a unique howitzer entry. It's your smiling mug. It's a nice write-up about your friends. And there's two elements that stand out. One is just says baseball for 4 years, which is great. And the other, what is it about you can't keep standing on the field? Was there an incident that caused that little bit of write-up about?
I had, I had performance anxiety, let's say.
Uh-huh.
And I was in high school. I was a really good second baseman, and I got the yips in college. I couldn't catch anything, and I ended up tripping over my own 2 feet, literally playing defense. So they moved me to be a designated hitter. So
is that right?
Yeah. So that was kind of the joke. I played second base my first year, and then Mike Spur ended up taking over the reins after about midway through the second year, I think.
Got it. Okay. But you were a good hitter, I guess, to be moved to designated hitter.
I could do that. I was actually a good fielder in high school. I don't know what happened. I just lost it mentally.
Just got the yips. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is, I got my master's, one of my masters in sports psychology.
Yeah.
And that was part of the reason I got it. And if you've ever been through, man, that is the most painful thing. Oh, it is terrible.
Most of my life is the yips.
It's something that you can do easily, and all of a sudden you can't do it for the life of you.
It's an amazing phenomenon. It's an amazing phenomenon.
It's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. What was your favorite baseball trip or experience? Or I mean, I love talking to the 150s, the light football guys, because they always have some sort of nutty story. Were you guys pretty laid back and pretty serious, or was there a little bit of fun?
Because baseball you play all the time, right? I mean, there were guys that went out and stuff, but you're playing. For us, we would get away on Friday, stay overnight if it was a longer trip, like Harvard or whatever. You pull in, you're up early in the morning because you're playing 2 games, then you're getting back on the bus, and then you're going to the next place and you're playing 2 games, and then you're getting back on the bus and coming home. So there wasn't a whole lot of time for revelry.
Not a lot of goofing around. Yeah.
No. Spring break could be a little bit different because we did have a little bit of time there, and there's some stories that shall be forever classified.
Not appropriate for the podcast.
Yeah.
This is a family show, John.
Exactly. And I was the designated driver, so I know them all. I could extort so much money.
What was it about you being a taxi driver to Boston? What was that about? Was that
I was the DD. We would go up to Mike's house. I was the DD for the group. So we'd go out on the weekends, and I would be, driving, and they were all having their good version of a good time, and I'm just laughing the whole time, enjoying myself and watching them enjoy themselves.
Well, regardless of being a baseball player, Mike Spur is a character of the highest order. So yes,
he is.
He's a ringleader because he was in our plebe area. So I remember, he was immediately noticed as he was a fantastic.
He's about
character.
1,000 miles an hour all the time.
Always moving, right? Always moving.
Yeah.
Aviation. When did that? Well, you said your older brother was an aviator. When did you decide aviation was it? Was that always a foregone conclusion, or did you have an experience that helped you cement that?
No, I always wanted, even before my brother became an aviator, I always wanted to fly.
Okay.
Never had any money to do it, or anything like that in high school. I had a classmate that got his license at 16 in high school, but never had the wherewithal to do that. After my brother got his, obviously that even bolstered it, when he got his wings.
Okay.
Honestly, aviation was a tough thing for me. Not because I didn't want it, it's because my eyes. We had the cadet flight program. Remember, you've heard guys talk about that. I was disqualified because of my eyes. For that because of my eyes. Yeah, so I'm like, God, how go to senior year, I pick aviation, take the test. I slept the whole night before, didn't keep my eyes open during the day, all that, and get there, and I pass it by that much, pass my flight by that much up at West Point. And the doc looks at me and he goes, "You may want to think about a different branch."
Right.
I'm like, "Why?" He goes, because your eyes are right on the limit. You go down to Fort
right
Rucker
on,
and
right?
you test again.
Yeah, they don't get better with time, obviously. Yeah.
And Rucker is the ultimate test, because you have to test again when you get to Rucker. And I'm like,
I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, I'm like, hey, I'm rolling the dice. If I don't get it, I'll be a truck driver, truck platoon leader, or whatever. I don't care, but I'm going to go for aviation.
Dude, did a lot of people fail out at Rucker after they'd gone through?
No, not really.
Okay.
But I passed by the skin of my teeth that flight physical. Waited until I'd soloed and then got glasses. Because at that point, it invested in me and that I'm going to get glasses at that point.
Right.
Yeah. So it was never a foregone conclusion until I actually got to Rucker and started flying.
Boy, I remember the stress around that. Those of you who wanted to go aviation, the physical and obviously the grades you had to, because at the time it was a more highly sought after branch. So you had to first get the grades, then the physical and all the rest. So,
yep.
I had bad eyes and bad grades. So so you had no competition for me at all. That's the good news.
Yeah,
that's why we got along. So what was your first assignment as you headed into the aviation corps there?
Kind of interesting story. Not real interesting, but I wanted to go to Korea. I'm a single guy. My brother had been to Korea. He told me all about Korea, how good the flying was. I wanted to go to Korea. And being a single guy, I figured that's easy. They're going to give me Korea. And they said, nope, you're going to a place called Hunter Army Airfield.
Really?
Like, where is Hunter Army Airfield? I didn't even know where it was.
Good for you, though.
They sent me to Savannah. I was in the 24th with you.
As was I. So you do RD down there the whole bit.
Yeah, RD and I kind of have parallel paths for a while.
Yeah. We didn't run into each other down there because Savannah was very far away from the 24th base at near Hinesville. So those of you who were in the Ranger Battalion or in the aviation group you were in a different world, basically, right?
But we had a really different. I was in the division, but I really wasn't. Kind of.
Yeah.
If I could say that. Because we would go 45 days on, 45 days off to the Bahamas to chase druggies. That was my first job for 2 years, and it was a absolute hoot. So we'd do that 45 days. We'd come back and either go to the field with the 24th or go to NTC. Pretty much is what it amounted to. So I was.
And what airframe did they put you into?
Blackhawks.
Blackhawk. Yep.
Yeah. So at one point, I didn't even have an apartment. Russ Spears and I shared an apartment. I actually just put my stuff in storage and just paid him to kind of bed down at his place because we weren't there long enough.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, but I had a great experience as a platoon leader because my first company commander was a warrant officer in Vietnam, so he kind of understood the aviation side of things in reality instead of just, TRADOC aviation versus reality. Right. My second company commander was a point man in Vietnam who then went to OCS and then went to aviation. So it was a great, you talk about learning from experience.
Yeah.
So it was fun. Good time.
And were you Blackhawk the whole time you flew?
Yeah, absolutely. I could have gone whatever, probably scouts or whatever, but it just didn't appeal to me. My brother was a Blackhawk driver, and you can only go so many places when you're an attacker,
right?
Scout guy, right?
Right.
Blackhawks, you can go anywhere.
Yeah, for sure.
They have aircraft, which is a lot of places because you got onesies and twosies and all kinds of stuff. So, I was decided Blackhawk well before, I even went to flight school. I had no interest in the attack side.
Now, you spent 20 years in the Army, if I read your LinkedIn.
Yeah, it just took me a little bit longer than most people to realize I wasn't fit for duty.
All the way, you broke the tape at the end and said, "Oh, look at that."
Just took me a while.
That's amazing. Yeah. So after platoon leader time, you had a great platoon leader time. Now, how about Desert Storm Shield? How about did you go over there?
That's kind of where RD's and my paths kind of were the same. He was 2nd Brigade's LNO. I was 1st Brigade's LNO.
Oh, okay.
And then we both came back to the brigade headquarters, and I worked night shift. He worked day shift. as
Yeah.
in the S3 shop. And so, I did that. So I was during the air war, I was the LNO. During the ground war, I was in ops in the aviation brigade. That was an experience. I remember driving in a Toyota Land Cruiser with my Jimmy Buffett playing in my headsets, watching these guys walk back towards Iraq, throwing them bottles of water, and plus all the, you drive by all the nastiness of war, obviously. It was just like this surreal thing, you don't ever expect that to happen.
I was in a Mitsubishi Montero driving one road over, playing Bon Jovi's "The Steel Horse I Ride," "Wanted Dead or Alive," going down another road where there's long lines of Iraqis. Yeah, very surreal.
Yeah, unbelievable. I actually felt bad for him, if you can believe that. Just as a defeated enemy walking back.
They're miserable.
I can't imagine. Yeah,
the miserable end of the experience for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So when you came back, there was very much a culture of, when we came back, there was very much a culture of, we're drawing down, we've won the world kind of thing. It's 1991. What encouraged you to stay in rather than saying, because a lot of us decided at that point that the last war ever fought had been fought. What encouraged you to stay in?
Well, I love flying. It was my drug. Some people, running's their drug, playing tennis is their drug, or drugs is their drug. Mine was flying.
Okay.
It was the only time really that I'd ever be present. So it had a strong appeal to me, and I got to do a lot of it in the 24th, doing the drug interdiction, then going to NTC. So I was constantly flying. And I liked it. I liked what I did. So then
you finished up with the 24th. What was the next round for you?
The next step was Honduras. I made my glorious.
Really?
I made my glorious return because I was an exchange cadet for Hondo.
Really?
That's that great. One summer, yeah. It was nothing. The exchange cadet is really just going around enjoying the country is what it is.
Yeah.
So we went to the Miss Honduran pageant and all kinds of stuff. It's kind of hungry.
Now, good with Spanish? How did you get chosen for that?
I took Spanish. I wouldn't say I was good at Spanish, but I took Spanish, yeah. You were supposed to, when the Honduran cadets came back, we were supposed to escort them, but I never heard anything, so I didn't ever have the second half of that.
Right.
I got the good part without the, toting somebody around all day.
Right. Yeah. You got to see this Honduran countryside without having to prowl Highland Falls. So back to Honduras, any funny connections there where you showed back up or you saw anybody, or you just...
I met my wife there.
Really?
Yeah, she was there TDY. She I was there actually 2 years. It was a 1-year assignment, but I liked it so much I stayed 2 years. She went down there for a 6-month assignment. Her boss, she was an intelligence officer. Her boss told her, "Don't get involved with any aviators." She said, "Yeah," and we ended up. Actually, it was 3 months we were engaged.
Really?
It was really, really quick. Yeah. So yeah, there was something funny kind of happened there.
Absolutely. And what was her story? The commissioning source? What was?
University of Minnesota.
Oh, okay.
She's 5 years younger than me. So.
Okay.
Yeah, and she came into my office one day and we're talking, and she's leaving. I wink at her, and I'm like, "I just ruined my career." But then she came back in like 10 minutes later for something else, and I'm like, "Okay."
And she really missed out on that warning about winking aviators.
Exactly. So now 31 years later, 2 kids, life's good. Honduras was good to me.
So let's talk about the kids, because we always got to make sure the next generation gets a proper shout out. The only time any of us on this podcast have gotten in trouble when we haven't given the kids proper shout outs. So 2 kids, you said, what's their stories? And we will return to Honduras after we get to take this family interlude. What's the stories with the kids?
My daughter is a lieutenant, or 03 captain, whatever you want to call them in the Army type of equivalent, in the Coast Guard.
Okay.
And she's got a really neat job. Whenever there's a disaster, she goes and they're kind of like a support unit
Yeah.
for the TOC, for the command centers.
Okay.
So she's been to the the car fire in Jersey, or the boat fire in Jersey with the cars. I don't know if you remember that. The
Just
bridge
kind of make
that
sure
went
all
down.
the everything's connected and
And
comms are up
environmental
and all that
stuffs
kind
are
of stuff.
taken care of and all that stuff. So she did that, and she did the bridge in Baltimore, the hurricanes, Hawaii for the Lahaina fires.
Right.
Believe it or not.
Okay.
So she's got a really neat job. She travels all around doing that kind of stuff. And then my son took him 5 years to get through flight school, not because of his inefficiency or problems. It's just the Navy and the Marine Corps were that backed up. So he spent 5 years on active duty, and just now is getting to his first duty assignment.
Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah, and that's Kaneohe Bay. So I got one.
And what is he
close
flying?
one he's flying the MV-22 or the Osprey.
Okay.
Yeah. So they're both, I won life's lottery. I really did.
Yeah.
I'm just a nobody from South Bend, Indiana, from very modest means. And I've done so much stuff and had just experiences. It's been fantastic.
That's great. That's great. So how did it work when you were in Honduras? You met, you winked at that young woman,
Julie,
and next thing you know, 3 months later, boom. How did it impact did she stay in? How did that work? Because I know that then creates a complexity around assignments and all the rest.
Yeah. After Honduras, a branch told me, hey, we want to send you to JRTC to be a OC. And I'm like, no, I just got back from the desert, 2 years in Honduras, and now you want to send me to JRTC? I'm like, nope, not doing it. And then they go, okay, we'll send you the NTC. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to the NTC either. Right. So they said, we're going to send
no
you to
TC I'm going to be doing, guys.
Exactly. I've not, it's like, I've not been anywhere, right? Because I've been gone the whole time.
Yeah.
And then they said, okay, we've got an assignment for you. We're going to send you to New Jersey, where it's a captain slot, and we haven't filled it in 6 years. and we're going to send it to you.
First thing you got to do is dust the desk off.
and I'm like, okay. Little did they know well, they probably did know, but I was assessed into the 160th. So I did my accession and went to the 160th and ended up going to Savannah, Georgia. And Julie was able to get joint domicile and get there too.
So you went back to Savannah?
Went back to Savannah, yeah.
And you moved back in with old Russ Spears? Hey, Russ, I'm back.
No, it's...
Hey, good news. I got a wife now. It's going to be both of us.
And we'll soon have a kid too.
Hey.
Yeah. No.
Second time around Savannah, a little more civilized, I imagine. Although you were on the road, you must have been traveling a lot with.
But Savannah's a great town to be single in. Let's not be.
It's a little slower when it's for the family.
And I know I enjoyed Savannah. Spent another couple of years there. Doing stuff in the 160th. Never did anything special. All I did was training and stuff. So I didn't do anything that was like, everybody would think of as in the 160th.
Right.
Then got selected for CGSC, went to CGSC, and then on to Fort Drum, which was really the only assignment I didn't like because I was in a regular divisional unit doing regular divisional things, and I couldn't stand it.
Yeah. So did you see any classmates at CGSC?
Oh, yeah. I couldn't tell you how many or
Right.
Obviously there were some.
So you went to CGSC, saw some classmates, then Fort Drum, back in a regular unit, less exciting. But then what year was that in your career in terms of Drum was then a 12 year?
96 to, so it was 10 years to 10 to 12. Well, I was only there 18 months because I was getting out of the Army. I hated it that much.
Yeah.
I was going to get out of the Army, and somebody, I think, in regiment heard that I was getting out because I get a call one day in December, which you never, I mean, it was November. You never get those, hey, we want you to do something in November. They said, hey, we got a slot for you in SOCOM, but you got to be there in December.
Right.
I'm like, Tampa, Florida? I got 2 little kids now, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, I either go out or stay in. So I stayed in and went to Tampa, Florida.
Okay.
Spent a few years in Tampa.
And was that a flying gig, or were you more on the planning
No,
side?
that was the one place that it was not a flying slot that I had. Because I flew everywhere I went up
Yeah.
until my 20th year. As a matter of fact, I was a kind of unusual. Who was it you had on the other day that said they didn't ever fly or didn't? Flying wasn't, they were done with their flying jobs as a captain.
I think
forget who
John
it was.
Cannon was one aviator that was talking.
Yeah, it was John. And I'm like, I ended up being a pilot in command everywhere I went, even as an 05. So it was kind of like I had a completely different experience.
And what was your last role, like your most senior role?
I was the commander of the aviation detachment. They called it a battalion. It wasn't a CSL pick, but it was in Japan. So I was the commander of the U.S. Army Aviation Forces Japan. I was the man, as they say.
Well, if that's the definition of flaming out, you seem to have flamed well.
Well, I don't know about that, but I tell you what, it was really neat because I got to go leave the Army on my terms, right?
Yeah.
I literally passed the guide on to the new guy,
Yeah.
walk down the hill, and sign out of the Army.
That's
Literally.
amazing.
So I didn't have any time.
And
sitting
all the way
around.
up until just
Yep.
that walk down the hill. And how old were your kids when you got out of the Army?
Oh God, they were 10 and 9.
Okay.
Or, 9 and 8.
You had a little
9 and
time,
8,
just you get a little time with them then before they are
yeah,
off to their
absolutely, because I started late.
colleges
Yeah.
and all the rest. Yeah.
Yep. So then
So
I
you got
was
it.
done.
So you got out, and you start flying immediately. But you said earlier that the vertigo kind of got in the way of that. But that was your
Actually,
first
I
thing
didn't-
after the Army. You tried to do a little flying.
Yeah, I didn't actually start flying. We moved. We're gonna retire. I'm like, hey, I'm gonna retire. And my wife's like, great. What are we gonna do? And I'm like, I don't know. We'll figure it out. And she's like,
Yeah.
nope, that ain't happening. We're gonna have a plan. And so she got a job.
Hey, that's a good intel officer for you.
Yeah, exactly. She said, we're going to Tampa. I got a job in Tampa. So she left early
Okay.
from Japan, got a job, bought a house, all that stuff. So I initially went back to SOCOM as a contractor, and I couldn't stand it.
Really?
You're not active duty anymore. You have no say in anything. I was working for a Navy 04
Yeah.
who didn't know anything about special operations. He was just a regular 04, and he was making decisions. And I'm like, this is not for me.
Right.
Some people can do it. I can't do it. It's sitting behind a desk is not my idea of fun.
Yep.
So I was basically a house dad at that point,
Okay.
kind of like Rafi.
If you could say you're kind of like Rafi, you've gone a long way in life.
So yeah, I did contracting for about 6 months, said enough of that, and then became a house dad. And
Yeah.
we're sitting down at dinner. My wife and I had talked about this already, and we're like, hey, you want to move? Because we're used to moving every 2 years. So we've
Sure.
been in Tampa again for 2 years, and we're like, it's time to go somewhere.
Yeah.
So I apply for a job in Vincenza. I get the job in Vincenza. My wife applies for a job in England. She gets the job in England.
Really?
So we sit the kids down at dinner and we say, hey, you guys want to move? And they're like, yeah, sure. Why not? You go, do you want to go to Italy or do you want to go to England? We want to go to England. But okay. And that was about all we said about it, right? So about 3 weeks later or what, I don't know, a month later or whatever, we go, okay, guys, we need to be packed. They're going to come in to pack our stuff. And they're like, what? They thought we were kidding. They didn't realize. So yeah, we moved to England. And my daughter was just starting high school.
And did you
so
take
she
the
wasn't-
job in Italy, then commute, or did
No,
you
no,
switch to
I
England?
I just went to England.
So you
They didn't
literally,
have
the
a
kids
base-
literally made the decision. Because if they just
Yeah.
said Italy, you'd have taken the
We
job.
would have gone to Italy. Yeah, absolutely.
That's great.
So
They had no idea.
no, they thought we were messing around.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, so my daughter wasn't thrilled at first
Yeah.
because she's 9th grade now,
Yeah.
and
And it's a different system over there, and the schools are a little different, even in the
yeah,
American
she's
schools.
leaving her friends that she just made because again,
Yeah.
military brat. We know the deal.
Yeah.
So anyway, she ends up loving England. I think she would be a British subject if she could be. because she
And
absolutely
where did you
loves the
settle
country.
in England as part of that?
Outside of Cambridge, a little
Oh,
place
that's
called
nice.
Molesworth.
Yeah.
Yeah, really, really beautiful place.
Yeah.
So there, I just substitute taught and started the baseball team for the high school because they didn't have one.
Did you really? Good for you.
Yeah, so that was my.
And was
experience
coaching
there.
always something of interest because you grew up with it and all that, or was it just?
Yeah, absolutely. In the summers we'd go to baseball camp because my dad would work baseball camps. And
Okay.
that's what I did. So that was kind of what I grew up with. It was my known.
So I have to ask you. You have in your LinkedIn, you're the mental strength coach. Is that a specialty, or is that just the way you present on LinkedIn? Or
Well, no,
what's
that's
the story
the
there?
certified mental performance consultant. That is a some people call it rigorous. I don't think it's that rigorous, but you got to have a master's in sports psychology or a related field. You have to do 400 hours of practical work under a mentor, and then you have to take a comprehensive test through the Association of Applied Sports Psychology.
Okay.
Once you do that, then you can become a CMPC, which is kind of ironic going back to, I don't know if ironic's the right word, but going back to my college
Your
days when I
experience
had, emotional control and all those things that you end up teaching.
Did you ever have any insight on what happened? It's hard to.
Again, no, I think it was ADD. I put a lot of pressure on myself because I was a recruited athlete. I was a perfectionist, which is the worst thing you can be as an athlete. You should want to be as good as you can be. You'd love to be perfect, but you can't beat yourself up when you're perfect.
Right.
So just a whole bunch of stuff. I was really immature. I was 19 years old.
We all were, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Had I not stepped out of that year where I had that knee injury, I probably wouldn't have made it through school. I don't think.
Yeah.
But, it's just a whole bunch of stuff. So, and 30 years later now, or how many years? 20 years? How long have we been?
How long? What?
How long? We've been out for 30.
Not for over 35 because we had our 35 reunion, and the 40th is 2 years from now. So there's an 8 in there somewhere.
which will be the first one I hope to ever attend. I mean,
we would love to have you. I
wanted to go.
I don't want to steal from your time, but I missed the 10th, and our classmate and my good friend Darren Moore drove to my house and chewed me out in a way a friend would do, and he said, "Never miss another one because we all want to see you." And it was a great intervention.
I was going to go to the 20th because I was out of the military at that point.
Yeah.
My brother had emergency open heart surgery, so I couldn't go. It was between being there for my brother or going to the reunion.
And the choice was not a question. Now, to be fair, you've gone to a lot of Army baseball stuff. I see your pictures
absolutely.
and stuff. So it's not like you've never gone back. You put the uniform back on. What was that all about? There's a picture on your Facebook where you're wearing an Army uniform, 28. You're wearing the uniform again.
That's when I was there for. I was at school for. I was an intern at their Performance Enhancement Center.
Okay.
And I was talking to the head coach at the time, and I said, "Hey, you need somebody to hit fungos, hit ground balls, fly balls, guys. I'll be happy to do it." And he goes, "No, I want you to be my volunteer coach because you get one volunteer coach."
That's great.
So I said, "Okay."
That must have been cool, though.
Yeah, it was. It was fun. I really, really liked the guys.
Yeah.
The cadets.
Yeah.
Good people.
It's fantastic. So, looking back over what an amazing journey, right? All the flight time and the coaching and everything. If you were to pick any time in your life that you could give yourself some advice, what time of life would it be, and what advice would you give yourself?
It'd be since the day I was freaking cognizant. The big thing, I should have developed relationships more. I didn't do that. I have very few close relationships. I talk to the baseball players.
Yep.
But that's about it from school. I mean, I've had some people call me and I need to call them back, but I'm not a super social guy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just kind of hard for me to in social situations. I didn't develop the relationships I should have developed with teammates, friends, classmates, that type of stuff.
Fair point. There's always the
Yeah.
future.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
And that's what this is. And that's why I love that you do this. You know, I used to ask all my enlisted guys and officers, why did you join? And the stories you get out of it were unbelievable. You know, everything from I wanted to piss off my doctor dad to the judge said I had to.
Right. Right.
You know, so this is kind of the same thing, because you get everybody's backstories that you didn't think about to ask or anything like that at school.
Right.
It's really neat that you're doing this.
Well, we all are in that period of life where we can enjoy it. This is the payoff, is being able to hang out together. Jon, thanks so much for being on the podcast. It was amazing hearing your story. I really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. And again, I think this is a great thing. I wish more of our classmates would hop on here and give their stories. And I appreciate you doing that.
We can get on. Trust me. All right.
It's your time.
Thanks, brother.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Courage Never Quits podcast, where any member of the class of 1986 who is willing to tell their story will be a guest. To get the word out and stay up to date on the latest episodes, hit the like and subscribe button. With over 900 living graduates, we have a lot of stories to tell, and you don't want to miss any of them. We'll see you in the next episode.